Gonna unmute. I'm gonna make Ellen a co-host and Theresa.
Yes.
Theresa. Yeah, we don't want people to come in and like sometimes people come in with a lot of noise and things like that. So we started a live stream on Facebook, so people will be seeing it. And so welcome. You're looking beautiful, Theresa.
Thank you. I'm showered and I actually have girl makeup on. What?
Yeah, it's very different from how we normally see you in your like
right,
power
with my
woman.
ponytails and
Yeah, like I hardly would have recognized you. Yeah. So it's a pleasure to have you here, and we want to basically introduce you to our audience. And so Ellen and I set up a community called Conscious World Club, and that was before COVID. We thought we were going to organize a lot of live events. Well, we had to do a lot of online events. Well, we're just making the best of everything. But we always loved great content. And when you were introduced to us and we took the test, as soon as I heard saboteur, 10 saboteur archetypes, I was like, wow, because Ellen and I, we've already been working with the victim and the saboteur with another archetypal consultant, a friend of ours. And the victim is very, very known to us, but the saboteur was not as known to us because a lot of the time people get more stuck in the victim. And I think it is because the saboteur is so empowering. The saboteur looks so empowering, right?
Mm-hmm. It justifies itself. Yes.
And even when you do the test, then we really asked a lot of people, who RSVP to come to watch the recording. We said you need to do the test because otherwise it doesn't really make sense. Because when you actually do the test and you start reading what you think is you, but actually it's just one aspect of a saboteur archetype, and you can also see how it really starts to play up in a certain rigidity in your life. Then you start thinking, wow, I think that's me, but it's actually the saboteur aspect. And that is what is so beautiful about what Ellen and I are doing. It's like we're learning so much, about actually who are we, who do we think we are, and what can we dismantle to actually really know more about ourselves. Ellen, what was it that you really, we've been talking about victim and saboteur for a long time. What did you learn when you did the test?
Well, it's like you don't really know, but then when you do the test and you look at your results, you're like, oh yeah, of course. Because you do those things. Like I have pleaser, avoider, and overachiever.
Hyperachiever.
Hyperachiever, yeah. Yeah, so it's like, I can immediately see where in my life I'm doing this, but you don't really know it until you see it. But then you're like, oh yeah, makes sense. It's not like I still can catch myself when I'm doing it, not yet, but at least I'm like, oh yeah. So even just doing the test already was a big eye-opener.
It was a big eye-opener. Also, what I try to do, because you can always sometimes lie on a test, I really was very honest, and I was honest about areas in my life where I was struggling. And so, so I would never say that I'm a super pleaser, but I am a pleaser most of the time. And that means that from childhood, I didn't believe my needs were important. And you can really see that in a lot of challenging situations where then I become very resentful, right? And then the second one for me was hypervigilant. And this is really me in like very stressful situations. It's like I have panic attacks and things like that. And I don't have them anymore, but I sort of like had to really rein that in. But that was ruling a lot of my life. And then another part of my life was the controller, and it's completely me, completely. So and a few more people are here, and I'm sure they all did the test. So, but what we would love to do is, Theresa, we want to welcome you. We want you to tell a little bit about yourself and how did you get in contact with this test, and when you were training, what were the insights you had for yourself, because you are a power lady. And still you need to know about this amazing saboteurs test, because apparently the saboteurs, I have a few quotes here: stress and unhappiness are always a choice. Any negative feelings you experience are because you've chosen to listen to your saboteurs. And another one, all your stress is generated by your saboteurs. And so, and I can imagine that you as a superwoman drive on this stress, right? Or this power. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how this test has enriched your life and the lives of your clients.
Thank you. And first of all, I really want to acknowledge both of you, Ellen and Angelique. Raising consciousness in the world is one of the most noble causes any woman can take on, especially given what we're facing right now. I'm getting all like emotional. What we're facing right now in uncertainty and difficulty and what people are dealing with every day. What you guys are doing, that work is so magnificent. And I just really wanted to make sure that I acknowledge you guys. The importance of what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we are doing the work. We look deep inside ourselves. And we know that, you know, in one of the last interviews, I bursted into tears, you know, because we really want to help people understand we are the answer. You know, why are we pointing fingers? You know, it's not going to help us to point fingers. And we have a lot of amazing men doing the work, but we definitely have more and more women stepping up as well. Yeah.
And I think it's all about wholeness and really learning to understand your saboteur, like the saboteurs that kind of can run amok behind you. And you guys both mentioned pleaser, and I'll get into my story in a second, but imagine that you're raised believing pleasing others is good.
All
Pleasing
of us, all
others,
women, a lot of women.
And I teach self-defense, right? And part of the defense that I teach against predators is that you don't always have to have empathy for someone you don't know. You don't always have to let people in too closely. You don't have to do what someone else says. But there's a pleaser aspect to most women, as well as when your pleaser shows up as a saboteur, it's this good thing that's kind of gone wonky. So I want to acknowledge that each of the places where we tend over into sabotaging behaviors, it started with something awesome. It started with something wonderful, the ability to give back, the ability to make people happy. You get a dopamine hit when you do something that makes other people happy. I get a dopamine hit. I have hyperachiever. I get a dopamine hit when I accomplish a thing, or I finish a thing, or I do well, or when I tested for my 4th degree black belt. I was the first woman master instructor in my system. And I cannot even tell you the weirdest feeling. Yes, I was all excited for a day. Do you know what my brain did the next day? What are you going to do now? What are you going to do next? You did that. What's next? And I'm
One day.
One day. And so for me, all of this work and neurofitness or positive intelligence, or that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about the research and the foundation of it. In 2014, I had a devastating car accident, ended up with a brain injury, TBI. And I have a TED talk on it, which is funny and irreverent, but also informative. The brain, I was told I was neurologically disabled. So you guys have studied Joe Dispenza. You've studied the biology of Bruce Lipton. You've studied Greg Braden. I had done all of that work prior to having an injured brain. So I felt like Humpty Dumpty. I had to put myself back together, not like peak performance. Like that's what you guys are working on, right? Like how can we be better? I was freaking disabled. I spelling, I couldn't think. I had PTSD, I couldn't function. I had to take all of the training and all of the neuroscience and everything I could find. And the brain up until about 10 years ago was expected to be, it was in medical textbooks, it was this is what happens and it's done. Neuroplasticity, God love it, came into being about 10 years ago, 10, 13 years ago. And thank God they figured out we could change our brains.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And so
we're not slaves.
I had to do all of this work on my own. And I had to find ways of talking myself through and healing when the doctors around me were telling me, we don't know if you'll ever heal. We don't know if you'll ever be whole again. We don't know what you're going to look like because every brain injury is different. So I applied everything we've learned from all of the greats. And then I had to start working on how to shift my thinking myself. every time we get into a sabotaging thought, it's basically an adrenal response, a survival response. And the first thing we think is, how can I make it out? How can I make this work? How can I, and you get into that feeling. Well, I've been training people in adrenal stress conditioning for over 20 years. And I was on autopilot with fight or flight. So I had to start training my brain consciously, so freaking hard, consciously,
Yes.
every day, as many times a day as I could. At this time, there wasn't the program that we're going to talk about today. There wasn't the idea of the saboteurs. I was surviving, man. I didn't think that my life was over. I didn't want to believe that I'd gone from this successful businesswoman to, basically disabled. I didn't want that to be my life. So I had to really create. So that's really how I got involved in what we're going to talk about today and assessing the saboteurs, because you can't, the enemy that you don't know is the one you can't fight.
In yourself.
In yourself.
Yeah. And I love this part about self-responsibility because, once you do the test, you get all these follow-up emails. And it was like astonishing in how many areas the saboteurs show up in your life. And we knew this already because our friend Daniel Brown, he created this victim saboteur month course, which was more around theta healing. We were downloading all the beliefs. And actually we had to do all this homework in like the 12 houses of astrology. So we had to find a victim and saboteur in all these houses. But so I was like still surprised, like, oh yeah, why am I surprised that the saboteur will show up in relationship, show up in your negative self-talk, show up in how you beat yourself up, show up in, a lot of the excuses you make and a lot of the bodily responses that drive you mad, that make us think we're fucking mad, like, why am I know everything and I still go there down that route. And, this specifically the ones that want safety or control. And it was like, wow, and I think what amazing is that actually I identified with these types, or identified with these archetypes. And and what I also learned is that of course we knew this, the sage, the wise, true part of us is in a complete different area of the brain. And if we don't know how to get there. So maybe can you tell us about the research that was done, because you've now been you've trained in it, you've been training people. And so the researchers, how did the research come about? I think there were 500,000 people that were tested. And I think, wow. And then how did he make how did the research come about how to calm down these archetypes?
And I'm looking for, one of the gals commented about the test. I'm looking for the link to post it for the saboteur assessment.
Me too. I'm also looking for it.
That and listen at the same time. I got to tell you, multitasking, not a real thing. So I will see if I can find the
It's in the event. It's in the event. Go to the event, and we posted it in the discussion. Go to the event on Facebook, post it on the discussion, and you can do it, I think, in less than 5 minutes. But I think
5 minutes.
I think actually, if you either do it now or you actually, if you're going to run us through the saboteur archetypes, you can actually recognize them. You'll be able to.
You might be able to recognize them in yourself. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and your question was, I don't want to miss it. So the creator of the saboteur, so this program is a gentleman named Shirzad Chamine, and he's a neuroscientist and a researcher at Stanford. And he wrote a book many years ago. I don't think I think the book might show up. It's called Positive Intelligence.
We have it now because it's a must-have book, I think, for people like us who want to know, who actually want to say, oh, that's your stickler. Oh, that's your controller. Oh, that's your hyperachiever. Or that's my hyperachiever. My
hyperachiever acknowledges.
Yeah.
Namaste achiever. The hyperachiever in me acknowledges the hyperachiever in you. So
that's only my number 4, though. I have more prominent ones.
Avoider. I find it's so interesting. Anyway, so the research that he did, he wrote the book, he did a bunch of research and used 4 branches of psychology positive psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, peak performance psychology, and neuroscience. So he studied how the brain works. And then the issue with learning anything is it's 20% knowledge, 80% practice.
Absolutely.
And all of our habits are formed using practice. So what you practice is what you get. And
it's who you are and the results you get.
And it is. Oh, thank you, Ellen, for the posting. Ellen just posted the assessment. So really outlining your saboteurs helps you figure out where are the places that I kind of struggle, or if I'm freaking out about something, which character is showing up most of the time for me.
So we're not talking about when everything is hunky-dory, everything is going well. It's like in those crisis times, or things don't go the way we want, or we sort of have to resolve conflict or difficult situations, which happens when we are on planet Earth with other people.
Right?
Yes.
And I want you to think about that before 6 months ago, basically is when a lot of this pandemic stuff happened.
Yeah.
And before that, we were all doing our lives. And when we faced it, yes. I actually think we were all in like adrenal overload anyway, like busy, and I only sleep 4 hours a night and hustle and grind and all those things, which I don't love because I think it can create an adrenal response, a constant adrenal response. So then all of a sudden, so think about your everyday life, like you're kind of you're walking and you kind of hit a hill and you're like, okay, I can make it up this hill, no problem, no problem. Well, COVID shows up and it's like a mountain. And you're like, I don't know how to climb. I don't even know the right gear for a mountain. Like, I don't even, what was I supposed to bring for this? This is hard. So we're facing uncertainty, fear, scarcity, vigilance, hypervigilance. Everybody was dealing with it or has been dealing with it in their own way. So sometimes you'll see people get really fear-based. Sometimes you'll see anger. You'll see a lot of differing opinions. You'll see people putting down other people. And a lot of what we see is that we didn't have the resilience. And I got to tell you, I have been through some crap times. I had to file bankruptcy in early 2000. I've gotten divorced twice. Like, I thought those were hard. But the brain injury for me, that was my freaking mountain. So, and for most people, being told that they can't leave their houses, they can't do their work, they can't do what they used to do. You guys are getting ready to release programs into the world. Smackdown. That creates a response. And so without knowing it, almost all across globally, our saboteur thinking has been hijacking our mindset.
So would you say the saboteur thinking is almost like the survival programs, right? The automatic survival responses that get triggered when danger is lurking.
Yes. Yep. So if you think about the way that our brains are built, we have an instant response called fight, flight, or freeze. And those are created for us to survive. So if a tiger comes around the corner, first your brain will go into freeze, by the way, because you need to decide, can he see me? What should I do? Some people get stuck there. So a challenge happens and they get stuck in freeze. I don't know what to do. Next is flee. Can I get away from the problem? Can I run away? Can I escape? And then the third evolutionary response, fight. Now, those are the way the evolution of the brain created fight, flight, or freeze. But people tend to be more comfortable in one or the other. I've seen freezers, I've seen fighters, I've seen fleers. So we are now in a position where we are activated. That part of our brain, the limbic system, is activated, and you'll see people going controlling on social media and in your life. You'll see hypervigilance, which are two of the saboteur archetypes. You'll see victims, right? Blame the world, blame everything, blame bad people, blame conspiracies. You'll see pleasers. How can I make this better? What can I do? What do you need? So we're all getting triggered right now. And what I loved about these archetypes and the learning how to recognize which one is activated is that's the minute you can do something. That's when you can do something.
Because and I don't know whether you had that, Eleanor, you know, those of you who have done the test, it's like an eye opener, because as I said, before you do the test, you think that's just how you respond, and that's the only way to respond. Whereas if you see the 10 and you think, wow, some people are clearly doing this and that's not working, and you have to admit, well, I'm doing this and it's also not working, because it goes overboard and it's not, and we know enough now to know that actually, if there's crisis, we shouldn't be listening to those three responses. Those three responses are not the neofrontal cortex, or not the what we call the non-local intuition that has all the answers. Yeah.
And this is all about getting you in that part of your brain. So the first step is knowledge, always. Awareness, knowledge, learn that these things exist. And then the second step is being able to switch it, being able to switch it, being able to switch it. And that's what takes practice. So if you think about when something is confronting you, how do you deal with it? How do you typically deal with it? Now imagine you could deal with it differently. And then that's where you start to switch. So for me, and we'll go through the archetypes as well, but I'm a hyperachiever. And what a hyperachiever enjoys is the next achievement. Well, the problem with that is the way that the hyperachiever justifies itself is that, no, achieving is good. I have to get a lot accomplished. There are things to do. I got to do things on the planet, in the world. And that's okay, except when it starts to go into a survival or a negative feeling, it becomes panicky.
And it's not even that. It's not even that. When you read the post, the hyperachievers also they have a lot of emptiness inside, because they're defined by their achievements. So if things don't go the way they want, then they really beat themselves up, and they avoid relationships, or they avoid things that are more emotional. They're always about their appearances. So when you actually look deeper, you know, it's what I would call it the Enneagram 3, because you know, I've worked with the Enneagram, and the hyperachievers sound very much like the Enneagram 3. They're very much about the exterior, and really a lot of pressure is put on themselves at the expense of themselves. And every saboteur has something that's being lost while they're in that, what they think is the holy grail type of thing that they need to go for. Yeah.
And I want to get back to, achieving isn't bad. There's nothing wrong with enjoying achievement. I get dopamine hits from achieving things. But the difference is, I don't often get to sit back and enjoy the feeling of joy and happiness and satisfaction. I'm focused more on what I can do next, what I need to do next. And I had a near-death experience in my brain injury during the car accident. So, and I was told that there was more work for me to do on the planet, so I wasn't done yet. And I took that as like, I gotta do. So part of my focus is balancing that with being, you know, enjoying the moment and learning how to do gratitude. So would you like to go through some of the saboteurs?
Yes.
Or what would you like to do?
Can you share the screen? Can you share the screen? I think you can.
I can. Let me open this, close that. I will do it this way. Hold on one second. So, sharing screen. All right. So now you should be able to share my screen. And we're talking about the origin of the saboteurs. And each of them starts with, a saboteur starts with survival. It starts with how we exist in the world. Are we able to move through challenges, and what shows up for us? So here's the 9 different saboteurs. I'm also going to talk about the judge, which is the main saboteur. But the lies that the saboteurs tell you is that they're good for you. So any of these, so think about, you guys have done work on saboteur archetype, but imagine that there's different characters within that archetype. And so that's what we're going to discuss. And here's what I love about this work. When you look at it in terms of a character, it's easier to have compassion for it. So when I look at it in terms of my hyperachiever, or I don't say I'm a hyperachiever, I say my hyperachiever. Isn't she cute? She's the one that sits at the front of the class raising her hand like, did I get the right answer? So each of the saboteurs has characteristics, and they're not negative. I really I really want to put that out there because sometimes we judge ourselves, and that's where you want to stay away from. So let's talk about the first one is the
Enneagram
stickler.
1. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
which is Enneagram 1.
I was the Enneagram 1. Very lonely place.
It is. Sticklers, if you have a stickler archetype, or if you have a stickler character in your saboteur arsenal, you oftentimes during stress will fall into the top 2 or top 3. So they're not all activated at the same time. You'll sort of veer toward one or the other. So stickler is Enneagram 1. And this is just that everything has to go a certain way. It has to be, there's right and there's wrong, a need for control, highly sensitive to criticism, very focused on frustration and disappointment with themselves and their others because their standards are so high. So your stickler is all about making sure everything is working. And if it's not working, there is hell to pay. They are miserable and unhappy. Now, they're also very perfectionistic, which can create a lot of rigidity.
Yes.
How fast do you want me to go through these? Is that enough on stickler, or would you like some more?
If anybody has questions, please put it in the chat, or if Ellen, because a lot of our tribe knows the Enneagram, but if anything comes to us, we'll ask you. And I think when we run through it, then maybe we can get back to it. Yeah.
Great. And also, where was I going to go with this? Hold on, thinking. Yeah, ask me any questions that you have. And because I enjoy, my hyperachiever enjoys answering questions, and I like to please people and make them happy. So the stickler is your Enneagram 1, and they are always looking for order. And when there's not order, it's chaotic. And that one of my coaching clients is working through her stickler, and I have to tell you, I've seen major breakthroughs, and I love that. So the second one, very common, also pleaser archetype. The pleaser is trying to gain acceptance and affection. How? By making sure everyone else is taken care of first. So
earning it.
They what?
They're earning it. They're earning affection by giving, by taking care of others, and they don't believe that their own needs are met. I'm now the Enneagram 2. That's my main archetype now. Yeah.
And I find the Enneagram interesting. I'm Enneagram 8, but seeing what saboteur characters show up, it's not just my 8. It's sometimes it's a 2, and I want to make people happy. Sometimes I'm a stickler. So it's different. It's interesting because the Enneagram, you're one thing. Yeah. And with these archetypes, it's like, not necessarily. It depends on what you think, or how you could be an impact from childhood. It could be how you were raised, what you've seen. So the pleaser is always about making sure everyone else is taken care of first. They avoid feeling selfish, and they find it difficult to ask for what they want. The most important thing for any pleaser is to start to learn how to say no and to do self-care, and that self-care isn't selfish. The issue that pleasers run across is they give and they give and they give, and they don't have anything left to give. They don't know how to directly express what they want or what they need, and they're worried that someone else won't love them. And on this, the original survival function is that the pleaser needs acceptance and attention by helping others. I would also add, your brain gets a dopamine hit when something good happens and you can help someone. So it is definitely a wiring issue. The problem is when it veers into overgiving, giving to get, not taking care of yourself. Then you become a martyr. Nobody likes a martyr.
Yeah, I can also really relate to the one where it says, it bothers me. It bothers me when nobody notices what I've done for you. And then silently, I was like, oh yeah, I recognize that one.
I'm surrounded by Enneagram 2s, by the way. Whenever I go to an Enneagram course, 75% are Enneagram 2s because we're the ones that want to help people with these tests.
Oh, I love that. That's hilarious. So the next one is a hyperachiever. Dun, 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 dun. So these guys are focused on constant performance and making sure things get done. It is a workaholic tendency to drive, keep, go. sometimes they have to be the best at what they do. That is not me. I know I'm just happy when I accomplish or achieve. I don't have to, I'm not competitive in that way. But that's not true for all people who have hyperachiever. The justification lie is that, oh my God, and I remember every time I sat on the couch for many periods of my life, anytime I chilled out, there was a voice in my head telling me, you better work while you're on the couch. You better focus and get some things done. There was a drive to always be doing something efficient and effective. And I could never shut that voice off. And when I took this test, the saboteur assessment, I was like, oh, that's the voice. That's the voice that's always telling me I can't chill out. Like there's
You
no
lazy woman. You lazy underachiever.
Right? Oh my God, in my head, that's the critic I hear is being lazy.
You're not worthy because you're not performing.
Yes. Yeah. And
I know a lot of Enneagram 3s. I know a lot of Enneagram 3s and a lot of jealousy as well amongst Enneagram 3s. So they're always comparing themselves with others. It's like, why is that person there and I'm not here? And I feel so unworthy because they are there. And of course they take the best of the best that they can never get there. Yeah.
So true. And oftentimes people with the hyperachiever characteristic can avoid feelings and distance themselves from people. And they really become focused on going forward, moving forward. And it's a way of self-validation. One of the issues with the hyperachiever is that it's conditional love. And it's not even conditional love from others, it's conditional self-love. So pleasers depend on others for validation. Hyperachiever depends on achievements for validation and self-love. And that's where, interesting, right? I find this stuff so amazing.
There was a big shift for me when I went from hyperachiever to Enneagram 2. I mean, I don't think it was a good thing, but there was a time when I was very much in the hyperachiever mode and I was feeling super like lack of self-worth because of, just comparing myself to others. And then when I gave up that, I went to Enneagram 2, which met a lot of my needs. And I was like, when were we ever ready? When are we ever done?
I think we do reach a level of wholeness, of integration. But it's kind of looking at, and if you've ever done shadow work too, it's kind of like, this is kind of the shadow stuff too.
Yeah.
So the next one is victim archetype, which is Enneagram 4.
The hopeless romantic that's always abandoned and love lost, writes poetry all the time.
No one understands me, poor me. And the thing about the victim characteristic is that all of the power is out of your hands. It's always at the feet of someone else. If you're in a relationship, then your partner has all the power. Like they have the power to give you a good day, give you a bad day, give you love, take it away.
Sounds like me still, by the way. No, I'm just joking.
And yeah, sometimes this shows up. The victim can also be very focused on what's happening in the world. And it's just a feeling of powerlessness, that they can't do anything. And when they can't, they get pissy, pouty, withdrawn, unhappy.
You're a woman on PMS.
Oh my God, that is so true.
I don't want to insult women, by the way. That's just my perception of my PMS. Yeah.
My PMS makes me angry. I get super frustrated and like my, like how you have that frustration tolerance. Yeah. It's so low when I have PMS. I am like,
yeah, absolutely. Very low.
I have to calm it.
I'm crying all the time. Yeah.
Right? It's crying. And for me, it's crying and mad. Who designed that?
It's toxic. It's like a toxic bomb when we have PMS. I don't know. We all become victims. I don't know. Yeah.
God, it kind of is. So, and maybe different times in your cycle, other saboteurs show up, right? Who knows? It could be totally possible. So the way that the victim justifies itself is by thinking, if I show that I need attention, if I show that I'm weak, if I show that I'm sick or not enough, someone will take pity on me and they will give me the love I deserve. They will give me what I want. And it's almost as if a badge of honor for what you've gone through. And even depending on, all of us have faced crap. All of us have faced crap. I had to make the conscious choice not to make my brain injury powered over me. I had to take my power back. I was not going to let a brain injury run. So I had to make that choice. And often if you're around a victim, they're very draining. Heck, when you feel victimized yourself, you can be very draining. And a lot of times it's the way it survived in your thinking was if you had very toxic parents, or if you had if anger was very prevalent when you grew up, sometimes if you shrink and you freeze and you get small and sick and you complain, you can avoid being attacked. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of like if I make myself small and unimportant and sad, they're not going to attack me. People aren't going to attack me.
There's a lot of different ways that, we have these coping mechanisms from childhood onwards, right? It's like either we're going to scream and yell, or we're going to do something really bad and negative, we get all the attention, or we're going to cry. Then we get the attention, or we overachieve and we get the attention. So it depends on, and these things that's why when you do this test, you almost think, but that's me. How come this is a saboteur? It's actually, how can you think the Enneagram is actually a saboteur? But I think what the Enneagram has all these different levels. So on the lower levels, we definitely are not in the optimal, expression of this archetype.
Yeah, and so think about it that way. When this saboteur is showing up, you're in the more shadow side, the least healthy version of your Enneagram.
Yes.
Of this particular Enneagram. So Enneagram, or hyper-rational is the next one. And these are people who very, very left brain, very active mind, very always looking for the facts and the data and hows. And it would be difficult for them to see things other than exactly as it appears. My guess is the people that you work with, you don't have a lot of hyper-rationals.
I might have dated them.
Ooh.
I will have dated them because the Enneagram 2 and Enneagram 5, the Enneagram 2 overgives, the Enneagram 5 never gives anything. And an unhealthy Enneagram 2 can stay a long time with the Enneagram 5. And a healthy Enneagram 2 will leave an Enneagram 5 very quickly. And that's what I did. But I was in Enneagram training when I found out. The teacher that I was working with, Robert Holden, said, if you're a healthy Enneagram 2, you will see that the Enneagram 5 in an unhealthy expression isn't giving much. And you'll be reining in your lack of, overgiving. And you'll say, this is not working for me. And you leave. But Enneagram 5s are, it's shocking to know the Enneagrams, because first you think it's this person. This person is just unloving. But then you find out the Enneagram 5 and you think, it's just their Enneagram 5. It's not them. It's not who they are. It's just their expression of an archetype. And that helps you forgive people as well.
And I also think it's important to realize if someone was raised in an environment where feelings were not supported, where you were told to man up or woman up, or, put on your big girl panties, or whatever you were told about feelings, that can become a hyper-rational version of yourself. So it's all about the ability to feel and have empathy. And it's also self-empathy. They don't have a lot of awareness of their own feelings. And feelings can be very distracting. These are also folks who believe that the rational mind is exactly what you need to survive and to thrive. And these are the kind of people I want as my doctors. I would like them to have some empathy though, but these are the kinds of people, hyper-rationals are great scientists, doctors, lawyers.
Maybe not the best husbands or boyfriends.
Unless you understood that feelings are not, and again, maybe working through their saboteurs, they can start to get to wholeness, start to learn empathy, start to understand compassion, self-compassion, and compassion from others. And it's a very common survival strategy when a child has been in a chaotic or angry environment as well. So the only way to control not feeling victimized or not feeling weak or not feeling powerless is to go right to the mind, right to the mind, right to the brain, right to everything needs to be controlled, orderly and rational. And it helps them avoid feeling pain. So I think in that it's good to understand. The next saboteur is the hypervigilant. And this is so there's a great thing about vigilance. As a self-defense instructor, I teach people how to be vigilant. Be aware of your surroundings, know who's around you, know what kind of energy people are giving you and what kind of energy people are taking. So are you drained? Are you good? A hypervigilant, and I think one of you guys has this in your
that's me when I'm in
assessment.
super stress. Yeah.
Constant anxiety.
Yeah.
Danger. All you see is what won't work, what's unsafe, chronic doubt about self and the world.
I'll go into this. Yeah, I was here, and it's that's why I know a lot of techniques to work with these hypervigilant emotions. But it's like you know, I really, it's a thing. It's like it's out of control. It feels like in some ways, but you know, it takes time to really rewire your brain. Yeah. But the great thing is I don't believe it's me anymore, you know.
Oh, thank God. Yay. And that's truly this work. The mission is being able to find ourselves as that higher self. And
yes,
just to notice that shadow.
Yeah.
Notice where you aren't being your higher self, and then you can switch, and then you can try to let it go. And even if it's like letting it go, letting it go, letting it go. And I'm going to give you guys a technique today too, to help you switch into that higher mind. So the hypervigilant, as Angelique has so generously shared, has anxiety attacks, is always looking for the dangers in the world. And honestly, it comes from a place of negative neural bias where the world was not safe. And I have to make myself safe. And this
I will
is the
do
way
anything to make myself safe. Yeah, I will do anything to make myself safe, even if it's destructive. Because you really believe you're dying. And I was there, so I'm really open. I'm not one of those coaches that, you know, have this perfect self-image. I'm far from perfect. And a lot of my clients like that from us, that we are just normal people. And actually the panic attacks, you know, it has helped me discover a lot of tools and see the validity in all the different tools, because for some people meditation works, for some EFT works, for some hypnosis works, for some release techniques, Sedona method, or, you know, emotion code. Guess what? I've tried them all because this was really coming from the thing is, Theresa, and I know you also have a bit of a spiritual background. This was not just my background. This was my ancestors' background of not being safe. This was a lot of transgenerational trauma. That's why I also studied family constellations, because sometimes these things did not even originate with your childhood. They originate from ancestors. And this is also proven now in a lot of science of people from the Holocaust, you know, or people, children with parents that have had a severe stress. The children grow up with these different gene expressions, you know. So, and they even found it in animals, I believe. So this is something, you know, don't beat yourself up for it. This is maybe, you know, if we all had a near-death experience, maybe this was our gift to the world to overcome this, you know. Maybe my grandmother and my mother and my dad's family, they didn't have the tools, the research to do this. Maybe we're the generation that's going to heal it for many generations back and forwards, right?
Absolutely. And that's, I think, the knowledge is what matters. The knowledge is what helps us going forward. Break the cycle, break the genealogical change, break the DNA. Epigenetics is all about what can I work with, what can I change now? So, and thank you for sharing that. And I do believe that there's a lot of these things. My mom is a hypervigilant, and
that's why that's your instructor to defend yourself. Maybe there's a correlation there.
Yeah, I want my mom to know the world is safe, and I want other people to understand that they can create safety for themselves. It's very important to me. The next one is restless, and restless is just the person that's always busy, constantly on the move, and they find a difficult time having fulfillment. So things are fun until the shiny thing shows up, or something is going to work until the next thing is going to work. And what it is just this almost like ADD shift of attention. And I don't mean to put down, I have ADHD, but it's this like constant moving of focus. And it's like, if I move my focus often enough, I will find what works for me. And there's this constant energy. And if you've ever met people like that, they can be very draining because they're always in motion or always moving, or there's a next big thing or the next thing they want to work on. The way that the restless justifies itself is that life is too short. I've got to go out and do the things. I have to have all of the experiences. I don't want to miss out. FOMO. So there's an anxiety from being present in the moment in your body. And that's really what training ourselves to become aware of these saboteurs helps us do, is get back into our body.
You know what's so funny, Theresa, because I've done quite a lot of the Enneagram tests, and I know Ellen and I were both Enneagram 7. So I'm a 2 and a 7. So 2 and 7 are very strong for me. But actually, when I do the saboteurs test, I was pleaser, Enneagram 2. I was hypervigilant, and I was controller. But in my Enneagram test, I'm a complete different archetype. So it's just like you said, every situation is different. I try to pick the most stressful situations to see how am I sabotaging myself in stress. But in normal situations, I'm the pleasant number 2, and I'm the fun number 7, with a lot of 7 friends that, you know, that are always the globetrotters around me. Ellen, what is it that you want to say?
Yeah, just that I was intrigued because I was like, oh yeah, restless. I recognize it because that's sort of the 7 energy that I have. But with the saboteurs, there's not that at all. It's completely different. So it's so interesting.
I can't agree more. And thank you for sharing that. I am an 8 on the Enneagram, the challenger, the caller out. I will fight to make other people safe. I will give a voice to those who don't have a voice. But controller, that's not strong in my saboteurs. So it is interesting. So a controller, I mean, I don't even know how to go into this. Basically, it is someone who has experienced chaos and has the deep-seated belief that if they take charge and make everything happen, they can be in control and they won't have to be unsafe or seen as negative or bad, or there's a survival instinct of controlling a situation. And
that's me. I'm not Enneagram 8 at all.
Great.
Far from it, but in my saboteur, I am the controller. This is so interesting, right? How we shift in and out all of these different archetypes, because I'm also not restless in my saboteur. Basically the prime fight and flight response is different in Enneagram than when you're, you know, normally functioning. I think that is what this test is showing us. It
is. And let me finish. How many do I have left? One more, and then I will show you the neuroscience of habit formation. So we'll go more into how saboteurs are created. But basically, your controller is someone who has a strong energy to take charge and can be very competitive, pushes people and themselves beyond their comfort zone. And it's the sort of person who thinks they have to do it all themselves. And there's kind of a martyr victim in there as well. Controllers can be very difficult to be around, especially for pleasers or anyone with a lot of empathy, because controllers are not focused on empathy. There's a lot of
results.
Trying to mold people. Yeah, results. And it's interesting because there's controlling and there's hyperachieving, 2 different aspects. So the last one is the avoider. And I have to say, I did not test high on the avoider, but oh my God, I see this in myself. Oh, so avoiding is a way of, and the focus on this aspect is not wanting to look at difficult or unpleasant conversations or tasks.
Well, who of us likes that? None of us like this, right?
I know.
It's so much more fun over there. I'm going to go that way. See you later. Bye.
Well, you guys have heard the word spiritual bypass. It's the ultimate spiritual. Rainbows, unicorns. I want to follow my bliss. I don't want to do my taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and at the same time, we are doing this. So we are bringing awareness to how, because actually law of attraction, they're saying what you focus on expands, don't even talk
Right.
about it because you're giving momentum to it. But I think, to be honest, like you can close your eyes to your self-knowledge, but your self-knowledge is 95% of who you are. You look at the results in your life. That is what you are attracting unconsciously. So whatever we think is law of attraction, I think is law of unconscious attraction. There's a lot more laws of unconscious attraction happening, which is why these tests and these courses that we can go on to are so illuminating, because we can actually measure, with brain science and neuroscience and all of this biofeedback, we can actually see that we can lower these crazy cortisol or, adrenaline responses that we have, so yeah, I love it. And the Enneagram 9, or what is it called? The avoider. Whenever I meet avoiders, I just think they want to always like live in nature by themselves and take care of animals and things like that. And I'm like, what type of like avoiding, it's like escapism is this? We need those people as well.
One of my clients is a avoider, and I adore him because he is like, hard conversation, want to avoid. And he just kind of gets into it like, oh, the avoider is strong today.
It's so good that it's humorous. I love it that it's humorous.
So much more lighthearted. And that's why each of these little characters has got a funny side to them. And the avoider's just like, run away, fight, flight, or freeze. That guy's out of here. And focusing on rainbows and unicorns and puppies. And I love avoiders. I think they're hilarious, but they also want to create peace around them. And they're definitely into the, if you look at difficulties, then you'll create anxiety, and that's the worst thing in the world. And so I get that. I get that people want to avoid feeling awful or having tasks that are awful, but we all have to do stuff that we don't want to do.
Some things need to get done.
This is so amazing. I just want to ask whether our guest here, two of my beautiful friends, do you have any questions? I mean, you can ask any questions. If you want to, you can unmute yourself. Raise your hand and I can unmute you. Otherwise, we're going to go into the science part, because we love the science, because the course that Theresa is going to run and that Ellen and I are going to be in is about the science to actually access our higher mind. And who doesn't want that? We've had enough of these saboteurs. Come on, we now want to access the higher self. Yeah, give us the science, they're saying.
All right, let me start sharing a little bit. And
science.
We love the science.
We don't avoid science.
I think it's it's valuable.
We're spiritual and scientific.
How is that not awesome? I personally think. Let's see.
Yeah.
Fiber brain.
So, neural fitness is all about your ability to switch from negative thinking to a positive mindset and the ability to choose. How does that impact us? Performing in life, doing what we want, and doing well, peace of mind, calm, and ease. So negative neural thought patterns, which is what we talked about with the saboteurs, were created for our survival. All have a reason. We have a negative bias for a reason. And we can change our pattern ways of thinking. Because the problem is, these negative neural thinking thoughts are not great long-term. So think about a negative thought as if it was your hand on a stove for just a second. And that brings your awareness to the fact that you are in danger or your hand is in danger. It's an alert signal. It's an awareness piece. But staying in that state will generate fear and stop us from being able to think clearly and get into that higher mind. And the higher mind is empathy, curiosity, creativity, action, a long-term negative emotion, sabotage. So here's part of the science. So when you're in your survivor brain, you're in the left part of your brain and the back, actually your brainstem is down here. So it is releasing cortisol. It is releasing norepinephrine. It's releasing adrenaline. It is releasing chemicals for you to act quickly and get out of danger. The problem is we start to live there.
Yes.
it starts to break down other parts of our body. When we are in adrenaline overload, our digestion sucks because you're not digesting when you're being chased by a lion.
No.
Sex drive drops because you're not thinking about procreation or that hot guy or that hot girl when you are running for your life. Our immune system drops. We start getting sick more often when we're stressed out. What we want to teach people how to do is go into that middle prefrontal cortex, which is really the empathy circuitry and the right part of your brain. And it's switching the thinking part of your brain. What happens when we are in
the resourceful part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look it down at the bottom with the emotions.
There's a big difference.
And I would love to add resourceful, because you come up with innovative ideas and ways of healing or dealing with challenges when you're in the other part of your brain. Now, the neuroscience of habit formation. So this is you're actually looking at neuronal activity, and this is the way a thought pattern. So we have a thought or an event happens, and we create meaning about it, and our brain will light up. And then the information will flow and tell us what to do next. So if we have an event, let's say you're nervous, and you're either nervous because you're going on a roller coaster or you're about to give a speech. You determine which side of your brain, am I going to go right brain or is that going to go left brain?
But probably we automatically switch into saboteur because we so identify with the saboteur, because that's how we habitually, even when we were young, were rewarded, or we survived, or we got like good results. We didn't even see the bad results. We just thought it was these other people. And then this is really where we have to get the awareness of actually if this is not getting the results that you want, it's because you're not accessing this part of the brain, which is a more intuitive, wise part of ourselves.
The science shows that it takes 1/100th of a second to change your thinking. It's faster than 1 second. Now, there was a study done on, Toyota did a study where a woman had to move her wheelchair with her thoughts only. So they tracked it using a CAP and an fMRI, and you can look up the Toyota studies.
Wow.
And she was paralyzed, and her only goal was to be able to drink coffee. She wanted to get her own coffee. And she had to use thought processes to be able to move the wheelchair. So they were able to track how fast you can change your thinking. 1/100th of a second. The issue comes up when we are often stuck in the saboteur mode. We don't change our thinking. So we know we can, and we've been trained. We've learned from some of the best, Dr. Dispenza, Greg Braden, Dr. Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, so many, Emotion Code, all of the people who've trained. But if you're practicing going into that sabotaging mindset, that's what you're going to create. That's what's going to be comfortable.
Why don't we shift here? Is it because, so what is the science saying about why we don't easily go here? Because we know about it, but I feel it's what they say, it's an addiction. Mm-hmm. This is like, there's so many chemicals that make us go there because it feels more, and sometimes it feels like it's thinking us. It's like we're being sucked in or something. Not that I'm avoiding responsibility, but it's like so overwhelming. You know what I mean? You wake up, like you could wake up in panic attacks. I've had that. You wake up in depression because you don't know what you're doing with your company, or something happened with a boyfriend,
or your life,
whatever. Yeah, or you just despair about the situation in the world. So why are we not choosing this sage, although we know it? So what is the real thing about the science that's telling us why we're not doing it? The mental muscle. Yeah.
Neural pathways. Your brain will create, in cognitive retraining therapy or neuropsychology, it's called a rut. And I don't mean like a rut, you get stuck in a rut, but a neural pathway becomes prevalent. And you guys have all heard, it takes how many days to create a habit? What have you heard? I'm always curious. People always quote the same. Oh, good for you. You actually quoted longer. Okay. So some people say 21 days. You can create a habit in 21 days. Well, it depends on how often you practice that habit. If it's something you do every hour, then your brain is going to start picking it up much faster. If it's something you do every week, you're not going to pick it up as fast.
What did you
On
hear, Alan?
average.
Yeah, on average.
Go ahead.
What did you hear, Alan?
I've heard multiple, actually. I've also heard 21. I've heard 30. But it makes sense, like but I do know also that if you don't do it consecutively, that you start at square one again. So you have to do it consecutively for, I don't remember how many days. So if it's 21, then it has to be more frequent, maybe 30, 60.
The average is 33 days, but doing something every day. So 33 days, and you can start to lay down the new neural pathway. But you take one day off, you start all over again. That clock restarts. So you asked why we don't go more often to the higher mind. And in this work, it's called the sage. So why don't we go to that sage? Because we haven't practiced it. All of our life, we've been rewarded, or we think, or we believe that the way that it shows up is just the way it shows up.
Yeah.
All my life,
we didn't think we had a choice, or we didn't.
You looked at your results and said, "That's just me.
I'm just a hyperachiever, or I'm just a controller. I'm just a pleaser. You know, that's just who I am.
This is who I am."
Yeah.
It's not when you are in your best. Are you controlling things? Are you hyperachieving? What happens oftentimes is when we go to that particular saboteur mode, depending on the how it shows up, we're not aware that there's a choice, and that is what creates the new neural muscle. So what we talk about, oh, hold on, let me go back to here. The positive intelligence with which we're working on is the basis of 4 different scientific backgrounds: positive psychology, neuroscience, cognitive, and performance science. Oh, a blank screen, pretty. So our saboteur brain, if you want to call it the left brain, and the right brain is sage. There's 10 different levels of saboteurs. There's 10 different options, 5 different powers that your sage has. And I love resourcefulness. I love that. Let's add 6. Let's add 8. That the sage in us, the higher mind in us, is limitless. It's infinity. We just have, what they found through the neuroscience was there are 5 powers that most people tend toward. So the saboteurs are always on fight or flight, left side of the brain. Right side, thriving, growth, creative solutions, empathy. Saboteurs motivate us through negative experience and emotions. Hypervigilant made you safe in some way, shape, or form. So you keep doing it. Playing a victim protected you in some way, shape, or form. So you keep doing it.
Achieving made you feel good, or made other people need
Happy.
you, or get you a good, like, you know, good job or whatever. Made you provide, but made you maybe a bit, like, you know, critical of yourself when you're not achieving, or of others. Yeah.
Exactly. And the sage part of us, that's the part that is so much bigger than us. And I want to also say, the saboteurs can generate success.
Whatever you call success, right? Whatever however you define success.
Exactly.
Because success,
but not happiness.
Because a lot of success when we're just wired in these saboteur archetypes, success is, according to each enneagram, you have a different success model. And that's why they say, you know, is your enneagram, which is a one-sided archetypal expression of who you are, is that the right one to define your success or your life purpose? No, that's why I think wholeness is such an important concept. And also the shadow comes into play, because, you know, I, for instance, have the victim as the lowest in the saboteur archetype, because I'm all about taking responsibility. But I always knew I'm really good at sabotaging, because I'm so in my power when I'm sabotaging. But now I know, because of this test, I'm like, I'm gonna stop it.
I'm self-sabotaging using that thing. Dang it. And so people will generate success, but not satisfaction or happiness.
No.
That's why you see a lot of people, very wealthy or very high achieving people, but their relationships aren't working, or they don't feel good inside. So when you are in the higher part of your mind, that sage part, that's where you create sustainable happiness, success, satisfaction, and you are more playful and more at ease. So we already went through the 10 archetypes. And I also want to go through why don't we apply the knowledge that we have? Because there's too many freaking frameworks of things we're supposed to know. I can't remember all of the competencies of emotional intelligence in a minute. Am I supposed to focus on the 7 habits of highly effective people? Should I use what I learned in the Landmark Forum? Wait, should I apply the meditations of Dr. Dispenza? Like, oh my God, how on earth am I going to be able to create a sustainable framework? And that's the difficulty of it. So I'm actually going to skip through this. This is my background, blah, 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 blah. So the research that we're talking about comes from hundreds of CEOs, Stanford students, athletes, participants, and then I've worked directly with over 30,000 clients. And it is from the book, Positive Intelligence. And I'm going to stop the share really quick because I really want to go to, actually, let's ask questions. Do you guys have questions now? And does the science make some sense? Like how and why we're not doing it?
I don't know. Ellen, do you have questions, or Elka or Gabriella? Just looking. I think sometimes we also.
So the neural pathways. It's just so interesting that it takes 33 days, and we naturally gravitate towards the saboteur ones. So it's all about getting familiar with the saboteur ones, and that 1/100th of a second, that's how fast it can be. But what if you're past that 1/100th of a second? Is it then over? Okay, no, you missed your.
I'm back in the saboteur.
1/100th of a second window. Maybe a silly question, but yeah.
No, it's fabulous. So I'm going to show you a repetition that you can do as many times a day as you need to. Oftentimes when our saboteur is activated or triggered, we have to do something to get back into our bodies. So I'm going to give you the most simple. I love this, and it's very easy. So you're going to take your finger, your thumb and your forefinger, and you're just going to rub with such exquisite attention that you can almost feel the ridges. 10 seconds of this gets you back into your sage brain.
How did people come up with this? How did people come up with this? That this is so easy to get back into sage brain.
I know. This is part of the, so Shirzad did a bunch of research on how to get, so, and I'll just, we're going to be offering a 6-week program on how to practice you getting into that sage part of your brain. And one of the things that is to help you shift is to do 3 times a day, check back in, check back in, check back in. And so this program also has an app that will have you do that. When he was creating, how do we get people into their, neuroscientifically, how do we get people move out of their stressor, move into their sage, move into their higher mind? They found you can do it in many different ways. So you can focus on the chair that you're sitting in. You can do a deep breath meditation. And it's just 10 seconds. It's getting back into here. So when we get hijacked in our saboteur mind, the adrenaline is flowing, and it might not flow, you might not know it's adrenaline, but you just feel it as a little bit of energy. 10 seconds of calming will get you back into your body. So you can breathe, you can count your breaths, you can feel the temperature of the air as you breathe in. You can rub your fingers together. Here's one of my other favorites. I do this one like if I'm stressed, I will do this all the time now, and it really does work. Here's another one. Gently take your fingers. Oh my gosh, Ellen, I can see you switch instantly. You like that.
I love it.
I can see your light switch. And so all it is just a simple, how do I get back into my body? How do I get back into my body? And where was I thinking, and where can I switch? What the fMRI studies have shown, 6 to 8 weeks of doing this and the program we're going to talk about will change your gray matter, and you will start to build more synapses into that sage higher self. And what happens is those saboteur thought processes, not only do they become less attractive, but you use them less. You stop them in their tracks because your brain doesn't get used to it. I want you to think about something you used to do. something unhealthy or sabotaging that you used to do?
Or beat myself up.
Do you still tend to do that, or have you found ways around it?
I think it's like something that's on my shoulder sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I experienced it today, and then I was like, what am I doing? I'm not listening to this anymore. I'm just going to love the part of me that is, not feeling well. I'm going to have compassion for myself. Yeah. And instead of saying, why are you not on top of the world today? No, I'm not always on top of the world. I forgive myself. Yeah.
So you have the tools. I want you to think about when you started kindergarten or grade school and you had to learn how to tie your shoes. That was freaking hard. And Ellen, you have a kid, so we forget. That was hard.
Writing was hard. Writing was hard.
You get a diploma.
Exactly. And no one acknowledges you. Yes, you tied your shoes, you get a gold star. So that is something we used to struggle with that then became rote memory. What this research is showing is that learning how to shift can also start to become rote. Will you still face challenges? Absolutely. But learning how to get into that higher mind helps you have the backing of the best parts of your wisdom with you. And this, 10 seconds, back into your higher mind. Oh, it's so calming. And I'm used to this now because I've been doing this training with Shirzad since before COVID. So I am used to these and I instantly feel it. I instantly feel this too. There's another one where you just take your fingers lightly down and you're calming. You're calming your vagus. I've lost Ellen. You love it. Keep going, girl. You're calming your vagus nerve. You're calming
the vagus nerve. There's a lot of recent research about the vagus nerve, because I know when I was studying with Lee McTaggart in the Power of 8 groups, Lee McTaggart did the Power of Intention, and she found out that when groups of people send love or send positive intention for a person, that actually all of them benefit. But when they did the research, it was all about the vagus nerve seemed to be the main thing that was changing for people. And so actually there's a lot of research now about how the vagus nerve is connecting all the different systems of our body to the brain and to our survival centers and to our neurochemistry in our body, especially the fight, flight, and actually I'm safe, I'm grounded, and I can access my higher mind type of mechanisms. Yeah.
One of the funnest ways to activate your vagus nerve is to hum. Because guess what you don't do when you're freaked out? Guess what you don't do when you're running for your life? You don't sit and go, hum or sing. Those send the similar signals. We're just not always in a place where we can sing versus doing something calming. Yeah. But humming and singing have been shown to activate the vagus nerve in your body. So it's like things you do when you're safe, things you do when you know you're taken care of. That starts to create that sense of safety. If you guys have seen weighted blankets, there's the reason behind weighted blankets. Weighted blankets help you to know where your body is in space so your brain can relax and you don't have to have anxiety, or they're working awesome with autistic kids and others with frontal lobe injuries. PTSD and panic. There's a reason for it. It's getting you back in your body.
Can we go into maybe some of the most beautiful or inspiring examples that you've seen about people working with this program? Because I can imagine people think, oh, I can buy the book and do it by myself. But actually, there's probably a lot that we can learn being in a group and actually doing it instead of buying the book and then, oh, you don't do it for 2 days and then you go back into your old program, right? So what are the things that you have witnessed that really inspired you, that made you feel hope, or made you just think this is so relevant for our career, for our relationships, for what's going on in the world right now? Because I think even without this tool, I think you're an amazing coach, because we pre-interviewed you. But I think this is such an amazing tool. Which is like you can, and actually it comes with you as a coach and a leader, the leadership coach. So I think this is really, people are not just getting the tool, they're also getting Theresa and the wisdom of Theresa, you know. And you also have a very spiritual side, which we even haven't delved into yet. But what are according to you the things that you've seen with your clients and maybe people that you studied with that really like, wow?
One of the most amazing things I have seen was a client who was a stickler and a pleaser. So you want to talk about a challenge, like everything has to be done this way and I want to make everyone happy. I mean, this poor woman was cortisol explosion. And about 3 to 4 weeks into the 6-week program, so we're offering a 6-week program with an app, and the app has you practice every day. And then we check in weekly to see what you're learning and what you're seeing and how you're applying it. So about 3 or 4 weeks, all of a sudden, this is going to sound so weird, her brain changed. And how do we know her brain changed?
Wow.
She could no longer tolerate the feeling of negativity. She could no longer tolerate her own, and it was funny because the way it came out, she was very frustrated with all these people, all these things happening. And she said, I don't know what's going on. I'm so frustrated, to things she'd been used to. And it's like being in a toxic relationship. I'm going to cry. It's like being in a toxic relationship and suddenly realizing it's toxic. She finally saw how toxic her own thinking was, and it didn't feel comfortable anymore.
And she realized it was her own thinking, her own judgments, the saboteurs, believing the lies of the saboteurs. And Ellen and I, when we teach, you know, our clients know this, we actually have this game where we say, you know, your program is like the saboteurs, right? It's like a tissue because it's always like has a sob story. And then the real you, we use a little flamingo puppet. The real you is like the flamingo. The flamingo is super wise, super, you know, tapped into and turned on, knows infinite intelligence, has resourcefulness, has creativity. And actually we use that as a fun model. But so often we are so used to listening to the lies.
Yes. And when all of a sudden you realize your own thinking doesn't feel comfortable anymore.
It's lying to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was the funniest thing because she said, all of this stuff is annoying me. I'm so frustrated. I don't know what's happening. And I said, the air that you've been used to breathing doesn't work anymore. You don't like it. It doesn't feel good to feel bad. And your brain just shift. And she was like, oh my God. I have another client who's high on the avoider list, and one of the exercises we did was have him write down a list, any avoiders out there, a list of all the things you're avoiding. Big, small, it doesn't matter. So writing a list, and then the next step of that is pick one on the list. It doesn't have to be the first one. It doesn't have to be the biggest one. Just pick one on that list and do one action step on that one thing today. The next time we checked in, he's like, I did 6 things. I don't even know how it happened. I have a list of 28 things, and I started with this easy, like I had to mail a letter and I didn't want to go to the post office. Like I didn't want to do this thing. I started with that, and it felt so good that I just kept going.
Isn't it amazing that actually when we follow the programs, it actually makes our life more difficult and it just piles up the shit.
So true.
And when you also know it's not even you, it's a lie, and it's like a sabotaging, destructive program that keeps on telling you, oh, your life is shit. Oh, your people are gonna judge you, blah, 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 blah. And you're just going to say, am I going to live in this universe of this horror story for the rest of my life? Or am I going to listen to the wise part of me that wants to live in a benevolent universe? You know?
Imagine what that, and you're creating that benevolent universe in a group. And by the way, the other piece I wanted to share is there is a 500% growth rate when you do work in a group. It holds you to an accountability. It helps you create compassion for yourself because you hear other people's stories. Yes. It allows you to learn from other people. 500% do our results grow if we're in an accountability group or a loving group or a supportive group. And that in itself, to me, is such a good reason to make sure that we stay conscious of what we're doing. I have another client who's hyper rational, and I have to say, hyper rational, I get that they're people too, but they are a challenge for me because I am very somatic. Yes, I'm a hyperachiever, but when someone isn't aware of their feelings, I'm struggling. So I had a client who actually started doing he did this himself. He started doing a little check-in, just a feeling every morning, like name a feeling, because he's hyper rational. He didn't know how to say the words for disappointed. It was almost like there was mad, glad, sad, and felt bad. There were 4 emotions. Hyper rational, right? Didn't have emotional fluency. He now has started to name his emotions deeper. He went to the internet and he printed out a wheel of emotions and started using, I could grab it, it's not right here, using different names. I don't feel mad. I feel disappointed. I feel frustrated. I feel impatient. He started creating his own freaking emotional fluency from doing this program.
Because he started seeing that this hyper-rational part is actually depriving him of a lot of beautiful things in life and alienating himself from himself or herself, and also, you know, not getting the results that our wholeness wants. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have pleasers who I have started saying no. I have pleasers who have started a self-care list. When I have time, it's so funny because this is how pleaser goes, right? When I have time and there's a little bit of an opportunity, these are one of 4 things I will do to take care of myself. When everyone else is, and I'm not pushy. It's not like I'm saying you must do this thing every day. They're like, okay, I can take a bubble bath and lock the door and listen to an audiobook, or okay, I can get a massage.
And not feel guilty.
And it's that one thing. It's literally taking one inspired action step. And I've got I have so many pleasers now doing boundaries and practicing saying no. And we walk through conversations and coaching. Okay, how do I say no? How can I do this? How can I? And they start to recognize. So the thing about a pleaser is you get that good feeling when you help somebody, and then it starts to turn toxic when you're over helping. And it's starting to recognize, yes, I feel good. I feel good. Oh, I don't feel so good. It's starting to get more specific neurointuitively at recognizing when pleasing has cost them something.
This is so beautiful. And I know this program of yours, a 6-week, is like a super bargain. It's like a meal per week, and it will change our brain.
$35 a week, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I think so. Can you tell us a little bit about the cost of the program, when it will start? Ellen and I are very keen to start as soon as possible. Also because we delayed launching our program, so our group is going to be wanting to jump on a program, and Ellen and I don't want to create another program which we then need to change. So we're just like strategizing what we're going to do. So please let us know what the program is about. Yeah.
So it's a 6-week program, and we go through it. You download an app. There's an app for that. I love that. And the app helps keep you centered. 3 times a day, you'll have exercises, and they're less than 2 minutes. And then you go back and you have all day long to do these exercises, and you just keep checking in. So it's 15 minutes. I don't think I've ever spent 15 minutes on the app. I think I've maybe spent 7. But
I think I will spend 15 minutes. I will challenge
You can
myself.
also track your meditation. So if you meditate, like I meditate for 20 minutes in the morning, I get 60 reps. And there's a little tracker so you can see where you're at.
Wow.
It's actually 7 weeks. The program is 6 weeks, but then there's 7 weeks of 1-hour videos. We have weekly pod coaching with each other.
Which is what we love.
Which is what we love. And then there's a 1-hour weekly video that comes out on Fridays, and you can watch it on the weekend or Monday. You'll also get the first 8 chapters of the Positive Intelligence book, and you get the freaking app for a year.
Wow.
The logistics of it. So there's more at positiveintelligence.com/program, but don't buy it there. It's $997. Don't buy it there. Here, it's $250. $250, y'all, for a 6-week program. I will put this sign up. Let me see if it will. go. I can't copy the sign up.
We will upload the video, and then under the video on YouTube, we'll put in all the details, but also we'll post it under all the sharing of this this video or the Facebook Live, so people, and we'll send it out in our mailing list as well, and in our Mighty Networks membership platform. So there will be multiple ways, and we'll tag you all the time, so people can always just contact you directly. Yeah.
Awesome. So it's $250. That is $35 a week for coaching and weekly check-in and your pod. You get to the app, and you get the app for a year. It starts on Mondays, and we can decide which Monday we want to launch on. If you want to launch this next Monday.
We don't want to delay this. Like, Ellen, what do you think?
Fine. I think go for it, and then we can start another group the next Monday. So you can, you just have to sign up, and then give me your email, and I will put you in the pod, and we can all be in the same pod, and I will be your pod leader. And you guys will also, you have the ability to help coach people using Enneagram and talking about your experiences and what you're seeing. And then the first video comes out on Fridays. I will also offer, if people are going through something and they don't necessarily want to share it in the group, I will do additional sessions for 99 bucks. It's about a 30-minute session, and we'll get to whatever you're going through. And really the pod is depending on your time zone, your availability. We want everyone, especially in this group, to be able to pod together. And a good size pod is 4 or 5, up to 12. More than 12 can be tough, but we might run 2 pods.
We might have to be in 2 pods because we're so popular, Theresa.
Seriously.
People already want to be in our pod, and I don't mind running 2 classes with you per week. So because I'll learn a lot. I would learn a lot from people, and because I think these Enneagram, like, you know, what I love about this is that it's science-based, and actually when you go to the Enneagram trainings, it's like, oh, geez, how long will it take you to overcome this Enneagram? Because it's like, you know, it's like a nuisance to actually know that you're 2, you're the 1, you're the 3, you're the 8, or whatever. And but actually, this one is actually change-based. I love it that this is so change-based, and it's actually showing us scientifically that these the neural pathways that are taken by these saboteur programs are actually not beneficial at all. And so why would you actually even want to, you know, identify with them all the time? You know, it's not beneficial.
And imagine being in a group of, and I love the pod, because the pod meeting can be as short or as long as you want. Everybody gets to share what they're experiencing. It's a 5-minute quick share at the beginning. And then we have time at the end for anyone else who wants to come up with, like, share what they're going through. But it's not like a place where sometimes in pods people hide, and
there's a few people that overshare, and a few is like, I'm not sharing anything.
I'm not saying anything. And the way that the weekly pod group meeting is set up, everybody gets 5 minutes at the start to share whatever they're experiencing, what they're noticing, and then at the end of that, we can spend more time. And if necessary, we can schedule a second session. But they're very like, you get to it, and everybody gets focused on what they need and they want. Everybody gets attention and love and acceptance and all of the things your brain wants anyway. And you get to see that we're not alone in the struggle. And as we go through the program, I'll share a lot of the things that I've learned as well. Being able to activate my higher self has enabled me to get over myself and do workout videos. So I'm a martial artist and a fitness professional as well. I owned a martial arts and fitness studio for over 20 years. After COVID started, I innovated a way of putting together little workouts on Facebook. It was not something I would have done before. That was all higher mind. That was all Sage. Going, you know what? Let's find a way to help people. Let's do that.
All over the world, not just in your little studio. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And I never, I've done television shows. I've done a lot of things that have gone out long, like worldwide. But these little videos, 10 minutes, move energy through your body, punch some stuff, jam out, boom. Never would have thought of it. Never would have occurred to me.
Is there like also like a platform where people can actually share things together? Otherwise, maybe Ellen and I can create one in our Mighty Networks
There is
platform.
one.
Yeah, yeah. Where
Part
is
of
it?
what you get, we get a pod community app. So you
Oh,
have
it's
your
in the
own
app.
app. You have your own app with your pod group. So you can share all throughout the day. You can share with
Look at
other
me,
people
look
going.
at me. I confronted a situation as an avoider or whatever.
And
Yeah.
there's an exercise that we're going to do where you have to find a childhood picture of yourself as the essence of who you are. And we're all going to share that on the pod app. So there is the PQ app, which when you go to that sales page, it'll talk about where that is. And then there's the community app. And the community app is communication between the pod group.
You know what I love about this? Because I was reading up on the what Shirzad was saying in this beautiful sales page. It's like so well crafted, that sales page, Ellen. It's crazy how well crafted it is. But basically it said, you know, we all know these things, but we don't have emotional fitness. So an emotional fitness is the application of what you know. And this is why Ellen and I set up the appreciation game. It's an accountability game for actually doing the work. And that's why we created these games around actually doing what you know, because without doing it, you just know it, and then you still go back to the sabotage behavior, the victim behavior, the destructive programs, you know, and just being so frustrated because we know it all, but we haven't found the way to train ourselves into these new neural pathways. And I think, you know, a lot of us do a lot of different work, but I think this is really a new model again, which I love. And it's so recognizable. I can say, you know, actually, every time I talk to people right now, before I would say do the Enneagram, now I just say, look at this test. Because, you know, this test is going to show you why you're doing it and why it's not helping you. So it's
Can you
been
imagine
very
a world
beneficial.
where we have the technology and the way to practice getting out of that self-sabotage? Like in that 1/100th of a second, can you imagine a world where people are feeling calm and resourceful and innovative and curious?
It's the
And that to me,
ramifications of not doing it, right? Because this is why the email newsletters that were coming in, which are like, I don't know who is his copywriter, or maybe it's Shirzad himself, is like, whoa. Because I was reading about, you know, how all these destructive saboteurs are in relationship with each other. And I can completely see it. I could see, oh, these are my relationships. I could see this here. This pattern is my downfall of my relationships. Or the one about work, where you just start controlling people you work with and you do not empower them. All of that stuff, it just basically goes into every area of your life. Yeah. Ellen, what is it? I don't know whether you've noticed how more about the way the saboteurs like impacting our lives.
I'm just curious. I was just thinking that during the times we're in now, that it's just so, I think a lot of people are faced with their saboteur now at this time.
But they don't know it's their
saboteur.
saboteur. They don't know it's their saboteur.
Yeah, they think it's them.
Yep. Yeah. You think it's just who I am. Yeah.
And imagine being a 2-year-old and you are mad and you're upset and you're pouting and that's who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. We identify with our programs and we're not the programs. And I think, you know, and this is the beautiful thing, a lot of the people who are in our game, after a while, because we teach them about the victim and the saboteur and about programs, and we tell them, you know that you're not in a program when you're actually more resourceful, you create win-win solutions, you're intuitive, you have more empathy, your heart is open. There's much more heart-based solution and creativity involved. And it's not about win-win, it's not about win-lose, it's not about winning at all. It's about creating a safe environment for connection. And a lot of people, we see each other transform. Like literally we see people change. And actually and for years they were doing all these different programs just because it went into the head, boom, out. It was just like consuming information, not knowing how it could help them, not applying it. Because there was nothing,
They've done studies after 72 hours learning new information or going to a workshop, it starts to go downhill. And within 3 weeks, you may have gotten one takeaway, and even that takeaway is hard to keep practicing or even remembering. And so the only way for us to create practice is to do it, do it, do it, do it.
Yeah. And I know you also work with teams, right? Because we might have business owners listening to this. So it's actually a coaching tool for high performance teams. And there's a lot of research about effectiveness in corporations and for leadership teams. But definitely, what are the limitations? Could you work with children, for instance, or teenagers?
14, 14, 15. Yes. So teenagers, so teens and teams. Teenagers get this. They understand it. It's not created in such a way that kids quite get it yet, but teens do. 15 years old, 14 years old. And you can have them in your pod. If you've got teens, then you can start to create a language, a way of a framework. Remember how we talked about there's so many competing frameworks of different things I could learn and do and apply and should remember. This is an easy framework. Am I in my sage? Am I in my saboteur?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're so grateful that we've been connected to you and, through a mutual friend that,
who was in the program, by the way.
Yeah, it's a shame he's not in our pod, but maybe he can do another run or whatever. But I mean, it's really, we really think this will benefit a lot of people. We just felt it, right, Alan? Yeah, and I think, our clients know and our community knows we only choose the best of the best. So, and yeah,
thank you.
We feel it. We're very intuitive. Yeah, we smell bullshit and we smell what's good. We're like dogs. I don't know whether we're dogs. I don't know. and our clients know it too.
Well, and think about it this way. There's a lot of esoteric spirituality and lovely, and I love the woo-woo. I love mediumship. I love intuition. But sometimes it's really freaking hard to practice that on a practical 3D real life basis. And so you show me something that helps me access my intuition and live in a world day to day better or more satisfied and more tapped in, I'm in.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate this. I'm very excited to see what happens moving forward.
Yeah. So we're going to start the next Monday because I think, because we are not running any program. So I think our players would love to join a program. And because Ellen and I are going to create this amazing, amazing funnel, and it will take us some time to create the next state-of-the-art platform. So we're really going to revamp a lot of stuff. So we don't have a game going on. So I think we would recommend our players to be in this game because I think it will really help them. And we're so honored that we can work with you and that you were sent our way. We magnetized you to us. And I think quite a lot of our community will be in this game. So maybe we'll be that one pod with 30 people, Theresa. I don't know.
I think that would make for a really long check-in every week. But
well, we love that.
Well, we can do separate group meetings, but pod size, we're going to try to keep the pod size down to, we'll see how many people sign up.
Yeah.
We'll just keep it manageable, and then we can have a large group meeting.
A lot of us know each other very well, and we're just we're a little bit like a clique, but we welcome new people as well. Yeah, so we'll see.
Like an accepting clique. It's like a open-minded, open-hearted clique. I don't know. There's another word for clique. Group.
Yes, we don't exclude people. We just welcome people that want to do the work, that want to change, that want to use the best tools out there. Yeah.
Think about the ripples too. If we can teach more people how to shift out of that mindset fast, they can teach other people. They can show people like that.
Do you know what it is? I believe the sage is actually when we are in heart and brain coherence. And when we're in heart and brain coherence, we have a very high level of consciousness. We're probably in acceptance of the David Hawkins scale, or we're probably in love. And when we are in those states of which is a really coherent heart and brain, we are influencing many, many people. And that's what the world needs now. It's more, we need that more than any type of action that we can give. It's who we are being that is going to affect the world. And Ellen knows this. Yeah, we're super.
Amen.
We're woo woo, but we don't think this is woo woo. We think this is real. This
I think
energy thing is real.
It is real. I mean,
Yeah.
we have 6 senses. Why wouldn't we use them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be like, I'm not going to smell anymore because people think smelling is weird. No, I'm not going to turn off my
Because I
intuition
can't see
either.
it. I can't see the smell, so it doesn't exist.
Exactly. It would be like somebody telling, that's what I always think of intuition is like, it's like telling someone that they can't smell what they smell.
Yeah.
I can smell it. I do not smell it.
So I hope that
Thank you, ladies.
our guests here and the ones watching the replay that you'll be here. I mean, I think Theresa is running these pods every week. So you can also join with your family, with your neighbors, with your sports team,
Co-workers?
with your colleagues, your business partners. A lot of us are in multiple, what we call direct sales companies, you know, and the direct sales companies have a lot of trainings and a lot of people that are always looking at leadership and understanding themselves. So yeah, but so we're gonna end call right now. I want to thank you again, Theresa. I really love this. This was very energizing. It makes me so excited that we can change it. We can just change it. Like, oh, you know, yeah. So thank you for your work. We are looking forward to hearing, to promoting you further and just like getting as many people as possible from our community in the one that we're running. And if you know, and other people can just use the link to spread it around in your groups. So what are the beautiful chats? So much.
Oh, they are lovely. My heart is so full right now.
Yeah.
You'll be crying a lot with our community.
I love that. I always think of tears as holy water. They bless. And they bless whatever's happened before, and they bless whatever's coming in next. Tears are holy water.
Thank you,
I love
Theresa.
that.
We will love your heart. So yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you on Monday.
For watching the replay. Lots of love. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.